Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andreas Groves. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Matthew Merrett and Craig Edmunds. How you doing, guys?
All good, man. All good. We're back. We're rocking and rolling after a couple of full starts, but it's good to be back on the eve of training camp.
A couple.
I was rusty with the intro. It's been a few weeks. Yes, it's been. We've had a break, and we're so excited to be back. But yeah, there is a few hosting issues with the intro where I'm just fumbling my words as we get back into the rock and roll of everything and we start the season. This is where the beginning of the season roll happens, where we go from pre-season all the way through to hopefully the playoffs. So it's the beginning of a long run, and so I fumble my words. Big whoop. But how you guys been doing, Craig? How's summer been for you?
All good, man. Not too bad. Busy. That's a good thing. I've got a adult for a son. That's crazy, and looking forward to training camp. So yeah, doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, like just like everything's been crazy as well. Use this time away just to get things prepped for just with life in general, with the family and stuff. So now we're ready to do as best we can with this podcast to really give the best show possible in the second season, which should be hopefully a really exciting season. I mean, last year had some exciting moments, but this year it should be really good. So I'm really excited to get started. Matt, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Yeah, man. I'm excited for training camp to kind of get rolling again. It's been too long, and it's kind of that point where that snowball is starting to roll, and that snowball is going to get bigger and bigger, and the excitement's going to get more and more as we kind of get into the season. And before we know it, we'll be hosting Baltimore week 1. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's going to come really fast. I mean, even this has kind of crept up on me on how fast these 4 weeks have actually gone for me. Like, I guess it's just when you're so busy getting things prepped outside, it's like it suddenly comes. You're like, oh, it's time to set up the show, guys. And I messaged you guys.
The good news is we said we weren't doing an episode unless there was an emergency, and I thought we might have to jump on when Zach Wilson and his mum's best friend story dropped.
No, we're not gossip. We're strictly professional here. Strictly professional. It was a very nice, positive. Like it was like a very Jet story, but without like the negative. Like Jets are a circus. Like, even though some people tried to paint it as that, it's just one of those things where it was just a funny story that we had something to laugh about and kind of enjoy the banter for a few days while we're in the kind of the quietest moments of the summer break. So that was a fun little thing that the Jets somehow, some way, there's always something that breaks that just makes things a bit more interesting for the team. But yeah, we are back. Like I say, today we're doing the training camp preview as it's the rookies have obviously returned this week. The vets return next week, so we're kind of going to be previewing the big training camp return. That will be next week. And there's a little bit of news to talk about, but yeah, that's just really going to be the base of the show as we kind of get back rolling into the second season of the podcast. So we'll just kick off into a little bit of news. Okay, so for the news this week, I think it's the biggest news this week was obviously Breece Hall finally signing the deal, the last rookie to sign his rookie deal. There was a few little kind of hiccups because of the Texans signed some interesting stipulations in Jalen Petre's. Is it Jalen Petre? The cornerback / safety they signed. I think the pick after Breece Hall, so that kind of made a little bit more tricky to kind of get some of the second round deals done. Not just Breece Hall, but some of the other second rounders. So that one's done, and all the rookies are done. So Matt, how are you feeling? All the rookie deals are out of the way. There's no holdouts or anything like that. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling good. I'm proud of Breece Hall. I think like power to the player, man. You've grafted through 3 years of unpaid college. Go get your money. Go get it guaranteed, locked in when you got that chance. So
Preach.
I think the Jets did the right thing paying him. Like, if you're taking a player in the top 40, like you have to have the conviction that he's going to see that third year. Like, if he doesn't see the third year, you've got bigger things to worry about. So get him signed, get him locked in, and full steam ahead. That's going to be a nasty 1-2 punch, Breece Hall and Michael Carter. So I think it's the right thing, and I think hopefully we start seeing more deals like that because I think the players deserve it, man. They're out there laying their bodies on the line, so power to the players.
Craig, how are you feeling about it now we've got all the rookies signed up?
Yeah,
so early.
Firstly, times two, everything Matt just said, 100%. And I like to see that rookies have the ability to negotiate in this way now. But also, like from a Jets perspective, you don't want it to be a story. You don't want anyone going into to training camp unhappy. If you want the players, get them signed, make them feel like they're wanted, make sure they get fair deals. So it's not, we don't even have to. All it is just vibes. Everyone's pleased. We've got it done. We got it done in good time.
Yeah,
Now let's focus on football.
that's exactly. I mean, it is. They've just really, really, really focused on keeping everything. Like I said, the vibes have just been great. Just the team spirit, everyone's togetherness. You saw, the trip that Zach arranged for some of the offensive players out in Idaho. It's just a really good vibe that's going around with this team. And it's always the culture they always talked about and never achieved, and it's just like come up, and it's like it's here. This is what it is. This is what it is when people are really excited to play with each other and really excited about their future together and moving together as a unit and battling next to each other and prospering next to each other. This is what it is. So yeah, it's so good to get all these guys signed up early and out the way and let them focus on the game. They got their money, they got their security, and now they move into to being the best they can be in their first year.
It's just the benefit of doing things cohesively, not to have like when you've got a plan and you've got this movement of players coming in over 1, 2, 3 years, rather than before where there was no kind of bigger picture planning. You'd have some vets, some young guys. No one was kind of on the same page. I think it just shows this year these guys, they're on the same page. They're kind of pulling together, and I mean, you don't get any trophies for being on the same page. As Craig drops his phone, don't get any trophies for that, but it's nice, and like we'll see how it pans out over the season.
And I think that exactly, like it's an easy tick, innit? Get it done. We ain't winning the Super Bowl because of this, but it don't need to be no bullshit. And actually, what we're seeing is like an identity developing, and I think that really is embodied by the head coach. And so you're talking about that, just general attitude, a way of being, players seemingly being able to have a voice, but being really a part of something, which I don't feel like we've had a true identity since Rex Ryan. So I love it. Let's just I just want to see football now, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at this point now where it's just get them out on the field and let's get some, even just some training camp reports and stuff like that. That's just great. But you're absolutely right. Like this isn't going to make a difference in terms of like whether you're going to be some sort of playoff team or Super Bowl contender. But this is the kind of stuff that the Jets constantly messed around. I mean, remember Darnold not getting signed. Even Zach last year had a bit of issues. Like, and they're finally, I think the ownership through Joe Douglas, through to the coaching and stuff, are all on the same page, like saying, get these guys their money. Don't haggle over small stuff because this actually makes a difference in terms of them getting in the building, especially the rookies. You want them you don't want you want to give them maximum amount of time to absorb what needs to be absorbed so they can have the maximum effort in their first year, which is you want to maximize everything and don't let anything be a potential roadblock or issue that's going to cause. And it's just these little things that kind of build up towards a bigger, what we talk about, like I said, the culture and everything being so positive. These are the small things that you build up towards the bigger picture, So really, really good to see that. They released the PUP list, the pup list. So yeah, I mean, we had it was Mekhi Becton. You had George Fant. You had Carl Lawson. It was Drew Samia, and what was the other? There was another one. I'm just trying to bring up right now. Who's the other one? Do you remember the other one? I'm forgetting. I'll bring in a second. I'm just.
Uzoma.
Oh yeah. CG Uzoma. That's it. So these guys, there's no big deal here. If you've got any issues with potential people coming off injuries or anyone who you have an injury. Potential injury. If anyone plays any training camp, they then can't go on the pup list they're not eligible for the pup list for the season. So you put them on there, And if they clear it, if they're good, you take them off, you're happy. But you got to do it now so that it doesn't become an issue down the line, just in case they do re-injure, re-aggravate anything. So I don't think there's anything to worry about if anyone's worried about, especially about obviously the big headline name there is Becton with his issues, but obviously with Lawson and Fant as well coming off injuries as well. So yeah, it is what it is, no big deal. I think the last bit of news is something that dropped as we record on a Friday, it dropped a few hours ago, is Woody Johnson had the old Jets helmet, the current Jets helmet, put like a rag over it, and then and then it's like it cut out, and everyone thought they're going to introduce the retro helmet, and they introduced the stealth black helmet, which I thought was pretty good. But I think a lot of people were disappointed. Craig, what's your feelings on it?
So I think the helmet looks all right. I think it's kind of cool. I do think that the decal is not ideal. It's not as sleek, and the reason that that's frustrating is because we do have different decals that could have made it look better. But listen, I'm a big one for stash. I like people being brave with kit. And we've got some sick gear at the moment. I would argue that we've arguably got the best kit in the league. So
it's divisive though, because some people would say we have the worst. Like there's actually people. I don't subscribe to that.
Kit are fire.
I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. But it's funny, there are plenty of people who do hand on heart say that kit's dreadful. And they're not just saying it as Jets haters. They're just literally saying like that. They just don't like it. So I particularly do like it. I think that the all black and the all white, especially, looks great. And these black helmets with the black is going to look fantastic. I was saying to you guys before the podcast, like, could we have done like 2 weeks of all stealth black and then 2 weeks of retro with like retro green? I don't know. It would have been cool, but maybe that's for another year. But I think I've thought we were going that way with a lot of people going retro. Obviously, with the Giants going with their kind of Buffalo Bills in '90s look, everyone wanted that retro look, but it's what it is. I think that's something down the line we can look forward to. But I think the stealth black is going to look great on those 3 games against, I believe, it's the Patriots, the Bears, and the Jaguars. So yeah, it's kind of a non-issue really, but just a fun little story that dropped a few hours before we recorded. So that's really wraps up the news. Obviously, it's a slow week as we get just before the training camp, but there'll be much more news to talk about as we go forward. But for now, we'll wrap up this and we'll head off to our training camp preview. Okay, so for our training camp preview, we're just going to go run through a couple of things each that we kind of looking at potentially, and what we're looking forward to and discovering over the next few weeks and months. Matt, what's the thing you're looking for?
I mean, we all know where this Jet season starts, and that's with number 2, isn't it? Like he's got the keys at the moment. He's gonna steer this airplane up or down, basically. So he's got a year in his system. He's had his first full off season. I always think when you do your draft off season, it's so shortened because you spend half of it preparing for combine and pro days and kind of being able to put on a show and doing interviews. So you then kind of have to cram the full bit into half the amount of time once you've been drafted to whichever team. So he's had that full January to August period to really get his teeth in, understand the offense. He's put some weight on by all accounts, kind of looking a bit beefy was the word used.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think training camp is going to be seeing him. Is his kind of his eyes matched up to his feet? Is he getting that ball out on time? And just those things that we kind of saw him develop as the season went on, not needing to be the hero every game, kind of understanding his weapons, because he's got weapons around him. He's got Brees and Michael Carter in the backfield. He's got wide receivers who get open in rapid time, and Elijah and Garrett. He's got big bodies like Corey and Uzoma and Conklin who are going to come down with the ball. So he's got options. We just want to make sure that he's taking the right options. And I'm not going to get too caught up into stat lines and if he throws a pick and whatever, but we want to see him just making the right decision and feeling a bit more comfortable in the offense. And I think that's where all we're going to start in training camp. It's a great time for that. Yeah. Particularly when he's going up people like DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner on corners. Like, you're going to have to make the right read against guys like that.
Yeah. I think you're right. I'm also not bothered about stats, but this is the time where the eye test matters for me. Like we talked about that early stuff. You can't be you can't win anything right now, but there's every chance you can make it much more difficult for yourself, right? So I want to see timing. I want to see him having a leadership role and expressing himself. And if you are able to do that, because for me, I think he's under pressure. I think he's under huge pressure this year. I think almost. I think Sam Darnold was very much at the benefit of the fact that we were so terrible, and he's been able to almost have a second shot at his career because of the coaching around him.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson has not got that luxury. I think that you had a good situation last year, even better this year. It is time that we have to see development. And by all accounts, he's showing that, right? You mentioned him bringing together a select crew of players in Ohio. Everyone's how he handled the whole Mumgate thing and his little Instagram post. So shit like that is good for me. Like, I'm down for that. I like that. But that's what I want to see. I want to see him growing into himself and therefore having to be accountable, right? You can't hold your players to levels of expectation if you are not meeting those. And that is what you want to see from your quarterback. If I'm going to make everybody else better, I have to start showing that I'm getting better. I'm putting the extra hours in. I'm working too. So that's what I want to see. I want to see timing. I want to see him connecting with his receivers and the mechanics of an offense coming together, but also him growing as a leader and as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one. I mean, it's pretty simple for me. I mean, he just has to have that balance between running the system, doing what the coach is doing, and knowing when he needs to show the ability we know he has to unleash when things don't work out well, and that's the balance of where the best of the best do it, right? Where people like Pat Mahomes and Rodgers, they can work great within the system, and then but they know exactly when to the line draws when you have to go out of there and make things up, and they know when to not to go to. You don't want him bailing out too early when there's a play to be made in the scheme, and yet you also don't want him to stay within the scheme too much. Where he was trying to find that balance last year, right? Like sometimes a bit too much he wasn't doing those big plays at the end. He was kind of very much in the scheme. So can he find that balance between unleashing the ability that he has when it needs to be, but knowing when to stay in the system and playing within the system, and he's got all the players around him to do so. He's got all the players that you would need for this system to be successful now, for him to be able to prosper, where he doesn't have to overdo it. He doesn't have to make superhero plays because he's got other superheroes around him. Like he's got a team around him who are really capable. So that's what he has to do. Just play the system. I don't need some sort of massive leap where he somehow becomes some sort superstar, because we don't need that. We've got such great players. I mean, we have really, really good players around him. Like he just has to play within the system and show those few moments where he can make a play when you wouldn't expect it, and that would be really successful season. The yards will come, and the touchdown, the big plays will come as well with that. So it's the key thing. Like I said, Matt said, it's the key thing. Absolutely. Craig, what's the thing you're looking at? What's the first thing you're looking for training camp?
So I just want to see. An improved defensive line. That's what I really want to see, and it's hard to judge that in training camp because you don't want anyone wrecking anyone. But listen, I've got a lot of stocks in Quinnen Williams. I have been fighting that man's corner for many, many years, and it is time to see. I think he hasn't been helped, right? He hasn't been helped. I think that this year, we will find out. And actually, I think our defense is so heavily predicated. Our moves seem to indicate we're really heavy, and a solid defense heavily predicated. We've got to get pressure. We've got to. And so therefore, I want to see man like Quinnen Williams winning his one-on-ones. Are you beating your matchups off the ball? We've got a very strong offensive line. Mackay is going to be on the pup list for a few weeks. Perfect. I can't wait I hope he gets a few weeks before the season so be it if not. But that's what I want to see. I want to see those one-on-one matchups. You're not going to get that level of physicality anytime soon. But are you getting beat? Are you winning your matchups off the ball? Have you got that level of sharpness? Are you locked in? I'm desperate to see that because I do think he's got the makings of being, top defensive lineman in this league. But he has to prove it this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, the thing is, you take him third overall, and people talk about, he has Aaron Donald like things in his game when he was at Alabama, and I think that set big expectations, and you would set big expectations at third overall pick, But there's just that guy is an alien. That other guy over in Los Angeles. So I think Quinnen just needs to be in that like next group of guys who you go, okay, who are the group right behind Aaron Donald, and he has all the ability to do so, and he looks great. Like every year he's taken steps. I don't know if you saw that photo they posted a few. They compared like his rookie, like press day photo, his kind of photo day photo with the new one. Guys, he's changed. His physique's changed. He's rocked up now. He looks great. So yeah, he's there. Defensive line. We have worries about the run defense, and we're not gonna see all this stuff play out really until we're really into games, unfortunately. And because there's the balance between how much you rush and how much you run, so you don't get to see all that balance because they're trying different things. But you're right. We have to see this defensive line really put pressure and show that they can dominate and take over at least from a pass rush sense point. Matt, what's your view on the defensive line?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think I agree with everything on Quinnen Williams. I think for me, it's almost as interesting just to see if we hear anything about what combo of the four that they like down there with their two hands in the dirt, how much they're kind of rotating. Because I think you can you pencil Quinnen Williams in as one of the three tackles. You probably pencil Franklin Myers in at 5, Carl Lawson at wide 9, and then that kind of gives you this Foley Cassie role that he played last season as kind of the nose tackle, one tech in the middle of that line, that run stuffer. And I don't know if you're going to spread the line a little bit wider this year as a result, because you don't have someone in that mould who can really play right over the centre. So I think seeing how they use that, because obviously there's talk you could move Franklin Myers inside to play free tech. You've got Sheldon Rankins, you've got Solomon Thomas, Quinnen Williams. All these guys are free tech, so they'll be interesting just to get a flavour of the rotation that we're going to see and how they're going to work them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that is something that we can see is how they rotate through and who lines up when and how many times they rotating against the starters on the offensive line. And that might indicate kind of what they want to do in the season when they.
Plus, we've got to see how we use JJ and how whether he plays at the end of that line, whether he plays at linebacker, how I think that we've got options, man. There's a lot to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's I think right now he's a guy that is going to start on first and second down. Because I think his best part of his game right now is his run defense. In terms of I think he's got some great pass rush moves as well. But I think his run defense is even stronger as a rookie. Respectively. So I think he'll come in those first few downs, and maybe it'll be him and Carl. I don't know. It's very interesting. They've got a lot of different people who can go in different places. So they've got a lot of thinking to do in terms of it could actually be a detriment if they don't get it right, because they've got a lot of kind of pieces that can move around a bit. It gives them flexibility, but it also could give them too much flexibility, maybe.
It's quite funny because I was thinking, and this just shows how many pieces they have. But I was thinking that to start with, Jermaine Johnson would be someone coming in on third down, because I was saying you'd kind of go Carl Lawson as your wide 9, and you've got John Franklin Myers as your big body, strong side edge defender, and you've got 2 players inside him. So
it could be either. It could be either.
It could be anything, and I think that's why it's interesting to wait and see.
I think he'll be used as an impact player. I just think it's going to be too difficult to ask for him to play that many snaps in his first year. I just don't think he'll have the size and the durability. I think he is going to use his length and his pace to try and make plays on third down.
Yeah, I think he can do either role. But it's just like I said, it's like right now, like when you look at his tape, he actually is a stronger run defender in his game than he is a pass rusher, even though he's good at both. It's just but then the Jets might use him still in that third down role because they've got better people in this year at where he is in the stage of his career as a rookie. So it's kind of interesting to see where they use him and fit where Carl Lawson, JFM, just a lot of talent. There is a lot of talent there. It's about using the right combination. You don't want the classic, the classic England midfield of the early 2000s where you got so many good players and you don't know none of them fit in the right position, right? So that can sometimes happen.
Paul Scholes on the left. No, it won't be. Yeah.
Paul Scholes on the left and not knowing what to do with Lampard and Gerrard and stuff like that. That stuff with quality players didn't fit together, and that's what the Jets staff have to figure out is like where do these guys fit in what down, in what distance, and so it's an interesting thing to see. But yeah, so I think for me, I'm interested in looking at how Sauce does against the wide receivers that we have that will go up against him, whether it be fellow rookie Garrett Wilson or Elijah. They are similar in some ways, but also different in some ways. And then you've got Corey will do things with Corey Davis will have his the veteran experience and a bit more of a bigger body, and he'll give him a different challenge. And then there might be times when they get Braxton involved in a kind of certain play that puts him against a slot. And how does he deal with a guy who's Source is quite a tall guy? How does he deal with that situation when matched up like that? So it'd be interesting to see how Source manages it and what they throw at him, because he has an incredible ceiling, but it's about where he's going to be as a rookie, because the quarterback is such a hard position to play. And he starts off the season with a lot of good receivers being thrown at him. Probably after week one. I mean, there's some good receivers even with the Ravens, but it really gets tough as you go through that first few games after that. So it'll be interesting to see what Sauce does against these wide receivers. Craig, what's your feeling about Sauce going into training camp?
I mean, obviously we all love him, and I just think what a great situation for him and Garrett Wilson. I mean, you're just going to get chances to go up against each other thousands of times over the course of the next few weeks and compete, and really you've got two super athletes there, right? So that this is certainly from a physicality point of view in the upper percentile in what you'll face in the league. A great way to start. So yeah, going to be fun, and I think our secondary, with I guess maybe not so much secondary, but certainly cornerbacks, I think got great room in cornerbacks. So I think that it's perfect, great news for both our corners and our receiver room. And it should be
open
fun.
it up to DJ Reed, right? Like, what's DJ Reed do on the other side against the other receiver who's on the other side? And then you look at, what does Michael Carter II do? It's really good. Like, there is a lot of talent there. And I think both rooms, there's good depth in both rooms and competing against each other. There's just, there is finally a good amount of talent on this team, and you can see it. It's really exciting to see these guys who've got obvious talent, and you're not rolling out, guys who are all having to step up a position higher than they should, right? Like, everyone's slotted in a position that you are happy with right now. So it's really exciting. So yeah, Sauce is the one you're thinking at, but DJ Reed, especially with the new guy coming in as a vet. 100%. Those two rooms going against each other. Matt, what's your feelings about that competition, wide receivers and CBs?
Iron sharpens iron, baby.
And that's what I was laughing when Craig was saying. I had a smirk on my grin because I'm like, when's the first time and how many times are we going to hear that statement? Because literally last year it got tired really quickly, and I think this year they're going to get there even faster, because it's like that one when you think Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, they already mentioned it already, in OTAs, so it's gonna get tired really quickly. But it's true, it's a true sentiment, right? These guys, quality against quality, you face each other, you battle, and it gets you ready for real opponents on other teams who have got quality players as well. And
they're rookies. You're going to bring that energy. You've got to make a good impression. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
for sure.
Great,
for sure. And they're guys they've been big. They've had success in college. They've been big names, and they go up against each other now, and they get to go, listen, I was big dog. I was also the big dog here, and that's really good competition. And there's two rookies there, so for sure, it's really exciting. Matt, what's another thing you're looking forward to in training camp?
I mean, I think the next big question mark after Zach Wilson, which is going to define wins, losses, and ceiling and floor of the season, is is this offensive tackle position, and we've seen it with the Jets so many years in the past, like quarterbacks being let down by their tackle play, and we've got penciled in George Fant, Mekhi Becton at the moment. George Fant contract. Hopefully, we get that signed soon. Just get him locked in. And I think he's another one. Go back to what we said about we saw George Fant's playing on no guaranteed money this season. Like, go and get your money, man. Go and get your money. And hopefully the Jets honour him and kind of give him the respect that he deserves, because he's come in as a reasonable free agent signing, and he's undoubtedly overachieved based on what we thought we'd get when we signed him. So hopefully Joe Douglas honours him. And on the other side, Mekhi Becton, and we like the situation with Becton's been spoken about ad nauseum. At this point, we need to kind of just wait and see where we get to. Hopefully, he's looking good. Salah was on a radio show the other day saying that he was looking good and spoke a lot more positively about him than when he reported for OTAs.
It links up with the photos that we've seen as well, isn't it? Like he looks better, like he looks great, like, you know, and Salah was more confident, more like I say, more complimentary of him for sure. So yeah, it's going seemingly the right direction. We have to see where it goes.
I don't get it, man. I don't understand.
What don't you get?
I don't get the fascination with Mekhi. Not yeah.
You know why? You know why? Because he has the highest ceiling and floor variance already. He could like completely flop out, or he can be completely all pro.
But I don't think he's got. I don't think he has got a low floor. This is what I don't. This is what I
but
don't
if he can't stay healthy,
okay,
fair enough.
Fair enough. If that's what we're talking about, then they're fine.
Of course, not in his play. It's never about his play. It's about if he can stay fit.
It's like, has a player never had an injury before? Like the fact that I don't want to do this because you're right. It has been talked about to death, but I can't understand why the guy farts and then Connor Hughes is talking about it. I'm not gonna be
okay. There's another level. Like those guys, the beat guys talk about it in a way that's just way over the top, right? Like Connor Hughes is, I mean, even his last comments about it is like, well, yeah, I don't care what one picture says, all these pictures say, you know, I was told this, and we'll see. You know, they started to kind of like sugar his words a bit, where he's like, look, he has all the ability. If he comes in really good, it's going to change the story. Like he started to change the narrative. Look, it's really about this. Mekhi Becton is a guy who is always going to have to watch his weight. Like guys who, there's plenty of superstars in different sports who, with their physique, they have trouble. They're right on the precipice of like they're on a balance beam basically all the time. I mean, people like Ronaldinho, for example, was like that. Like he was really like the way he used to play and the way he had to play. He was really like, if he went one way too much the other way, it would affect his play. Mekhi Becton's like that, just in the way he has. He has to stay big to be dominant and to stay. But he also, if he gets too big, it becomes an issue because then it's just too much weight, right? And I think I think a lot of the shade that's been thrown, the stories that have been made of him, is been despicable. But there is a legitimate thing where he has to be at a decent weight, and let's just
let him. Like either prove it
absolutely.
Or not. That's what I'm saying.
That don't sell newspapers, Craig. That doesn't.
Yeah, but exactly. That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah. But wait and see. You got
exactly.
Play, man.
He's had these injuries at Louisville. He had it in his first year. He obviously had the big one, which was unlucky, and then I don't think the Jets handled it very well. Saying he's coming back 4 to 6 weeks, and
they made it worse.
It got worse because of that. But just wait and see, and I think that's all we can do. We're all on the same page with it. But ultimately, until he proves that he can play a 17-game season, it's a question mark. And I think that's the point. And then the original point is just those backup tackles with Max Mitchell, Chuma Doga, Conor McDermott. Hopefully, I still want Riley Reef in the building. If you can get him on a reasonable deal, get that swing tackle back up. So Max Mitchell, 4th-round pick, like he's got potential. We like him, but we don't want to be putting that kind of pressure on him in his first rookie season as a 4th-round pick. So tackles is another thing to watch out for.
It is such an important position because, like I said, if Fant can be as good as he was last year, and Becton can be as good as we know he can be, if he's healthy, he's dominant. We saw in his rookie year, when he was healthy, when he was on the field, he was playing well. Luckily, he had great games against Nick Bosa. People like this guy is an absolute beast, and before he got injured that game, he kept him absolutely quiet. There was multiple guys he kept right in his rookie year. He looked fantastic, but he was getting nicked in and out of games quite often. and it created inconsistencies in his availability, because then you're having to put Chuma Dogas and you're having Conor McDermott's, and they are drive killers. They could be in just for 3 plays, and that could be the play that Zach gets injured just purely because how bad they are. Like, that's why it's so important, because the drop off is so big, and that's why, talking about Riley Reef or another backup is important. But and also Mekhi Becton, if he is healthy, the guy could be literally the best tackle. He could be better than anybody, and I'm talking about anybody, even the guy in San Francisco, Trent Williams. He could be up that level, that good, if he can play.
Just gotta let
That's
the man
why.
play.
That's
Just
why.
let the
Because
man
it's
play.
because it's the variance of like. That's why it's so the fascination. It's an important position, and you've got such a unique person at that position. That's why, and it matters to the fan situation, because if Becton comes in healthy and he plays as well as we know he can, he's got a shot at left tackle. Why shouldn't he have a shot at left tackle? Even if you have reservations about what Fant can do at right tackle, well then if Becton is dominant left tackle, then maybe he wants to go, because remember, that's going to be important for Becton going down the line in terms of pay, and that's also why Fant might not be signing, because he doesn't know what position, if it's going to be right or left, and the Jets might be in that position. So I think once that gets worked out, then we'll know what we do with Fant in terms of pay. But it's right, he does deserve he's been great. He does deserve a pay rise, but it's a bit more complicated because of the whole Mekhi Becton situation. But we'll see how that works out. Craig, what's your next training camp thing to look for? I mean, I knew the Becton thing was going to get a reaction. It's like it does. But what's the next thing, Craig?
So for me, so I think the Becton news is important in relation to this, because I do think, for me, Becton is, from what we've seen of him, top quality player. Got to let the man get fit, get healthy. Let's see if he can get back on the field. Providing he does, I think his impact on our two young running backs is going to be significant, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that relationship develops. Now, having played obviously a bit of NFL, I wish play a bit of football, and having seen a few teams develop, it's really unique to play in a position group where that you want other people to have success, but if other people have success, it's going to limit your opportunities.
Yeah.
And how that is treated within the position group and by the coaches really impacts on how players perform and what the atmosphere is like. So for that, particularly for Breece Hall and for Mark Carter, I actually think they've got a fantastic position. And in today's modern NFL, there is very, very few feature backs. And if you look across the league, you're talking about Derrick Henry's, Jonathan Taylor, and even he has to share time. Saquon Barkley, Zeke Elliott, that lasted 3 years. So that bell cow back is a very, very rare thing. You need two good, strong running backs, and I'm really keen to see how not only they produce, but how do they get on? How are they supporting each other? What does that look like? Because no matter what, for us, for all of what we've talked about, we have to run the ball. A Jets football team, we have really... The Jets football team can't run the ball is not a Jets football team. Really frustrates me. But yeah, I love all the deep plays. I want to see some splash football. We got some exciting players, and I love what we've done in the receiver room. But if we can't get 4.5 yards, it's going to be a problem. So how them to mesh, what plan he has for using them, do they have very clear roles? Desperate to see how that looks.
Yeah. Matt, what's your thoughts on the running game?
Yeah, man, they're the box that the Jets game is built on. It's like you're trying to reach something out of your top shelf. And if you've got a good running game, you've got a big box, you can stand on that box and get the things out of your top shelf nice and easy, because you've got 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. You don't have that box, man. You're jumping for that top shelf, and you're knocking things out of the way, and you're making it hard. You're going to the cupboard and getting a broom to get your mop to try and knock it off. You're playing on like 3rd and 8, and it's just not. You're putting yourself on the back foot, and you're putting yourself in shorter drives. You're giving your defense less time to recover. Like, you only have to remember that Jets v Eagles game, which obviously we were on the wrong end of it, but just to see what an effective running game can do, you get everything kind of in gear. So, like, the ceiling is high in the running game as a whole. You're talking about two young stallions in that running back room with Hall and Carter, and you got 5 guys up front who who can
You can make a
block
difference.
the
Yeah.
F out of it in the running
I
game.
mean,
Like,
we talked about the tackles, but I mean, the reason why we're not talking about the guys inside is because you've got a solid guy at centre. He's not spectacular, but he's solid and he's very good in the run game. And then you brought in a guy who's an all-pro guard, and you've got a young guy who you think is going to be an all-pro guard in Vera Tucker. And like, you know, that thing, Tomlinson, McGovern, and Vera Tucker, that is nasty. They're going to be great in the running game. And if you got the two tackles doing some good stuff as well, we're going to run. And these two running backs are talented as well. Like Michael Carter is fantastic, and Breece Hall is even more talented, which is crazy. Like that, they are legitimately talented. I think people are really sleeping on how good the running game is going to be. If the five guys up front are the ones we think we're going to be, and they're mostly healthy and mostly available, yeah, we're gonna control a lot of games, and we're gonna be in a lot of games because we're gonna control the game through the run game, and it's gonna make things a lot easier on Zach and a lot easier on the defense as well. It's gonna make it a lot easier just overall management in the game. So, no, that running game is going to be exciting to see. I'm really excited because I don't think people are really, Breece Hall's getting a bit of buzz now. The fantasy's starting up, and he's obviously, he's the number one rookie taken, and he's most people's number one rookie running back this year. So he's getting a bit of buzz, but it's always a caveat. But the Jets' offense isn't going to be great. I think people are sleeping on it a bit. I think because of a little bit of the Zach Wilson thing of him leading the offense, it kind of dings it down a bit because of people's doubt of it. But you look at the pieces that the Jets have got to be balanced as well. They can keep things moving when the run game is a bit more difficult on certain plays against some of the better defenses. Just overall balance is going to be great, but we're going to run the ball against a lot of teams. Like I said, you saw what Philly did last year when they turned it to the run game, and I think that's something we can definitely copy. But yeah, we will kind of see all these answers come up in training camp. And we will see how it looks very soon when the guys start reporting next week. But this is where we're going to leave you. Hope you really enjoy the weekend as we kind of roll into training camp. So Matt, thanks for joining me. Craig, thanks for joining me on this week. And yeah, we will catch you next week.